Your attention please all passengers. Please listen carefully to the following announcement. On your flight today,
Welcome to the On Your Flight Today podcast, where we explore the latest developments in the in-flight passenger experience, aircraft interiors, and in-flight entertainment and connectivity. My name's Corinne Strikert and I'm your host. In today's episode, we're joined by Lukas Kaestner. Lukas is the head of marketing, PR and events from Hamburg Aviation, a non-profit organisation that supports the aviation industry as a key location in the civil aviation world in Hamburg, Germany. Lukas is also the co-founder of the Sustainable Aero Lab, as well as president and executive board member of the Crystal Cabin Awards Association. Lukas is going to tell us more about Hamburg Aviation, the Sustainable Aero Lab programs, and how they're focusing on developing sustainable technologies and practices to achieve decarbonisation of the airline industry. Lukas will explain the goals of this program and how startups can get involved. Hamburg Aviation is also known for its annual Crystal Cabin Awards, which recognises innovation and excellence in aircraft interior and cabin design. Lukas will share insights into this prestigious industry award, often referred to as the Oscars of the airline industry, the role it plays in promoting innovation within the industry, and some tips for submitting your innovation to one of the 8 award categories this year. A local of Hamburg, Lukas also shares some tips on the best spots to visit when in Hamburg, Germany. Let's get started and welcome Lukas to the show. Lukas, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Good. It's an honor to be on your podcast. Thanks for inviting me, Corinne. Happy to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming. How's things in Hamburg?
Very cold at the moment, unusually cold, but it's still sunny. And we have a little snow on the ground. So I'm happy.
Oh, great. It is that time of year, isn't it?
It should be, yes. For once it is.
So quite an introduction, and you wear so many hats at Hamburg Aviation.
I do.
We know Hamburg Aviation, you've got over 40,000 specialists, 300 companies, 3 core companies. It is a massive operation. Could you tell us a bit about the various roles that you do have at Hamburg Aviation?
Yes, so Hamburg Aviation is basically at the core of what I do and what we do. It's the platform for the broader topics of the aviation community of Hamburg, I have to say. And as mentioned, we're one of the largest aviation sites, especially for commercial aviation in the world. We have some specialties that we're focusing on, and I think one, for example, is cabins. The other one is production. But if you look at the entire life cycle, the interesting thing is that Hamburg is really a place where the entire life cycle of a commercial aircraft is being reflected. So from the development and the production of aircraft, which is being done mostly at Airbus, to the whole operations side and the MRO side, which is being done by Lufthansa Technik, who are also the world-leading player in this space. So this is a really interesting community to build on, because wherever you look at the life cycle of an aircraft, and that includes also the cabin, you will find experts here in the region. And we also have some suppliers that integrate into this. So it's a really exciting mix in the community, and Hamburg Aviation's mission is basically to connect all the dots on site with each other, so people actually know each other. You know, it's easy to spend your entire career at Airbus or at Lufthansa Technik, never leave the premises. It's really interesting and exciting to see who else is out there, and oftentimes working on very similar topics. And the other mission that we have is connect the dots to the international community of aviation, because as we all know, aviation is a very international industry, which is, part of the beauty of our industry. And we, of course, make sure that, we have the connection to the other international regions and players and stakeholders, not only through events like the Aircraft Interiors Expo, but in general through the topics that we specialize in. And it's very dynamic. So there are a lot of exciting projects always coming out of this ecosystem, and that's a lot of fun to follow.
Yeah, for sure. I must admit, when I first discovered, Hamburg Aviation, obviously through AIX, the Aircraft Interiors Expo, I had no idea at the breadth, that the size of the operations, the organization. I know, it's a powerful alliance of business, science, politics, education.
Yes.
It's just absolutely amazing. And some of the stuff coming out of there, I think, is absolutely brilliant. There's a lot of work underway, I believe, in the sustainability area. You're one of the founders of the Sustainable Aero Labs.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that, and how can people get involved?
Yes, so it's a super interesting project that I helped launch in 2020, actually late 2020. So our first session was in 2021. So the Sustainable Aero Lab is an accelerator program for startups and young companies who work on technologies to decarbonize aviation. And getting there was, and developing this initiative was kind of our COVID project, because everybody was stuck at their home places and we couldn't travel anymore. And at the same time, we realized, there are still, aside from the pandemic, there are such pressing issues that our industries has to face, such as sustainability and getting to net zero. And if you look at the timeline, being a net zero industry by 2050, that sounds far away, maybe at the first glance, but it's almost 28 years only. Looking back, that's the entire time that we have seen the Boeing 777 in the skies, and it's still considered a modern aircraft. So if we want to have hydrogen aircraft, fully sustainable fuel running aircraft in the skies by 2050, really need to double down at the speed of innovation that we have here in the industry. And that is opening up to new players, new technologies, and just opening up the discussion to be less of a silo, less of a closed shop, but openly sharing, what are the ideas and how can we connect the ideas into practice at a faster speed. And this is what we focus on with the Sustainable Aero Lab. We focus a lot on mentoring. We bring together very high-ranking experts from around the world into this program, from aerospace, from other industries, but also from venture capital, which is really interesting to see how these communities mix and mingle, because there weren't a lot of touch points in the past. VCs looked a lot into the software sphere, but this is changing as well. You see a lot more hardware and especially zero emission technologies being funded. So this is a very interesting point for aviation right now, to also open up new ways of funding for ideas and technologies. And we bring all these people together and really focus on what needs to happen next for a certain company or for a certain project to evolve and to get to a higher technological readiness level. This is kind of the core of what we do, and we do this globally. We've had over 40 startups in the first 2 years from around the world, really from Seattle to Melbourne, Australia. So we have our roots in Hamburg, but we're not a Hamburg-minded initiative. So we're truly global, and it's really, really fun to see how this is evolving, and the cooperation and also the investments that we've already seen come out of this. Yeah, it's a really fun project.
Wow. So, it does involve a lot of startups. So for anyone out there that's listening that has this idea, that wants to make a contribution, that's a startup, what would be the best way, potentially not in the Hamburg area, what would be the best way to start to get engaged and get involved and contribute?
Yeah, it's actually really easy, I think. We have the website of the lab, which is sustainable.aero. Really easy to take down, I think. And then you can just read more information there, and also directly apply to the program from that website. And that just means that your concept gets directed onwards to the venture management team, and they will be in touch with you and discuss the next steps. So it's really, we want to have low hurdles to get in touch. And also, we don't have any deadlines. So we work with seasons, but that doesn't mean, that a company can only apply, I don't know, through February and March. So you can contact us anytime and join the program at any time, because we really want to focus on the ideas and the technologies and not on certain dates.
Great, because that was going to be my next question. Is it like an annual intake? So it sounds like it's anytime, reach out, get the ball rolling.
Yes.
What I will also do, include in the show notes the links to the websites that you're referring for anyone interested
Thank you.
in getting involved in that. Thank you for that overview. I know there's a lot happening in that space. Not my area of expertise, but I know you are one of those experts, and it sounds like there's so much great stuff going on in Hamburg for sustainability to getting towards net zero. So thank you for sharing that. Just want to switch topics now to one of my favourites,
yes.
Very close to my heart, the Crystal Cabin Awards.
Yes, my other hat.
Your other hat, yes. So I know at the time of recording this, there's still some time left, and this will go live before the close of submissions on the 25th of January. So you do wear the hat. You are the president of the Crystal Cabin. I guess being the president of the Crystal Cabin, can you share some insights into the behind the scenes and the teams that you work with and some of the challenges that, I've had some involvement obviously with the Crystal Cabin and see it from a different perspective, but you see it, all of it. So can you share some insights?
Yes, I'm happy to. So maybe to first make a connection to the topic before, though the Sustainable Aero Lab and Crystal Cabin Awards are very different communities, I would say, they both focus on the same goal. It's basically an international network of connecting people and forwarding ideas within an industry segment, and really push innovation forward. And I think this is something where the Crystal Cabin Award has taken great success in the past. I'm saying this so blatantly because it's not what I really did all the time, because I joined when the Crystal Cabin Award was already at full spin. And I think the wonderful thing is that we were able to develop the Crystal Cabin Award from really an industry prize, a B2B award, into a globally recognized innovation award for air travel that is being recognized by all the industry players, including the airlines, including media. And it's really wonderful to see the community that has come out of it. And at the same time, it's really become a big project for us as well, because we do this within Hamburg Aviation. And again, it's not connected to, it's rooted in Hamburg, but it is not a Hamburg-based prize, so we don't have a Hamburg quota or anything. So it's truly global, and especially around the peak times of the season, when we have the final votings and we have prize-giving ceremony, when we have the main round judges, it's really gotten a lot of project management to deal with. And we're fortunate to have a really great team at Hamburg Aviation who is covering this. So it's a lot of work by now to do this. But the great thing is that we've managed so far to stay agile with the project. So categories are being adapted once in a while to focus on developments in the industry. For example, last year we introduced the sustainable cabin category. Mm-hmm. In a task force together with the judging panel to see, where is the industry heading, what is needed in terms of refocusing from the Crystal Cabin Awards. And also during COVID, we've always been an in-person event. So we had to switch everything to doing a live TV coverage of the awards when it became clear that we will not have any in-person events anytime soon. And we also managed to do that. So this is also great to see, how we are able to adapt to the current situations. And this is, I think, also that our industry has managed well in the past years, really adapting to new situations and working with them.
Yeah, for sure. And I have to say, to be honest, having been a member of the judging panel, the coordination, particularly during COVID, how quickly your team pulled it together did the event online. I think is absolutely fantastic, tremendously put together, well organised and planned. And I find every year it just keeps getting better and better. To kind of clarify, so, with the Crystal Cabin, there were quite a few categories, including cabin
Yes.
concepts, cabin systems, health and safety, IFEC and digital services, my favourite, material and components, passenger comfort, sustainable cabin, as you'd mentioned, and the university category. So quite a broad range within the aircraft interiors. For those out there that are listening that have some innovation, are contemplating submitting, do you have any tips, like say the top 3 do's and don'ts that would help people out there that are considering applying and submitting their innovation?
Yes. So the biggest tip from my end is don't be shy. Really dare to throw your hat into the ring, because the community, and you're part of the judging panel, Corinne. So it's almost 30 people from all sides of the industry. So if you really want to get a concept noted within the PACSEX industry, I think it's a great way to get feedback, show your concept to the world, because so many people from all over the industry are coming together and look at these concepts. So it has really helped a lot of ideas and companies to come to the stage and really get traction in the past. So this is something I highly encourage people to just try it out and be confident in your product. At the same time, I think it's important to really try to think of what the situation the judges will be in, because we've had seasons in the past pre-COVID where we have received over 100 entries. So it's important to have a pitch presentation that is crisp, that is focusing on the main USPs, that you don't disassemble into many different parts and fields, that you really have a red thread in your presentation and the structure where you really outline to everybody what exactly the USP of your concept is, and that you are able to get the attention of everybody. Take, for example, you have an innovation in the IFEC segment. This is a presentation where you will be able to really give an expert voting, Corinne, as this is your main background. But this is to reach the finals. It's not enough to just get the votes from the IFEC experts in the jury. You'll have to sell that concept to everyone to get the enough votes to make it into the final. So it's really about creating a structure where everybody understands your product, and where you really point out what the difference or what the next step is that you've managed to achieve through this concept. And I think this is the major task already to be done. If you look at these 2 points, then you're already on a very good track. And lastly, one category that's also very dear to me is the university category.
Yes.
This is the category open to the university students from around the world to enter their concepts. This category allows for much more creativity and oftentimes also craziness to submit. And we want to encourage this. And this is a great point of entry for anybody who is still at the university level and looking to make an entry into the aviation industry. This is a wonderful way to create a presence for yourself in the aviation industry, to really have your name visible at major airlines, at major OEMs, at major suppliers in the PACSEX industry. So this is really a differentiator if you want to enter the aviation industry, or especially the PACSEX industry, as your career. Then the Crystal Cabin Award, or just being part of the Crystal Cabin Award as a student, is a fantastic way to really put a foot through the door of that industry.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I know we've had conversations in the past about the university category. It's one of my favourite to review, because I feel that these students are coming in with fresh eyes, that the sky's the limit.
Yes.
Pardon the pun. It's amazing what they come up with and their vision, and they're not hindered or restricted by any kind of pre-existing ideas, or, having worked in the industry, you kind of get set in a way and you understand the processes and the systems, and they're free from that. So I quite enjoy reviewing those applications because, your imagination runs wild. Yeah, it would be great to see, more students at more universities worldwide participating. And I think I'd mentioned this to you previously as well, an idea out there that, it's mainly for like engineering aviation students. But I feel that with digital services being added to the IFEC category, for example, I feel that opens it up for a whole heap of new universities and students in design, user experience, outside
Yes.
of what traditionally would be the IFEC, kind of sphere. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And with other categories like sustainable cabin now entering, there's another segment of the industry that you can touch on as a student. So if you're interested in aviation, if this is where you want to go, then just I think you will find ways to create a concept that fits. And I absolutely agree. It's not about just the engineering students. It could be anybody. We've had fantastic design studies win the Crystal Cabin Award in the university category in the past as well. So again, don't be shy. Just, try it out. There's so much to gain, especially as a young professional who wants to enter the industry.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a perfect opportunity for someone wanting to come in there and, really make a mark and show what they've got. Totally agree. I'm a full supporter of it. I love the innovations. It's my favorite time of year, and I know it's yours as well, and really looking forward to seeing some great submissions coming in for this year. Technology changes. You blink your eye and there's already a new version of something out. COVID, I believe, is in the rearview mirror for all of us, I hope. And people are more relaxed and thinking forward and, looking to a positive future. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes in this year, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It's developing so quickly, and new focal points are moving in. And I think this is really the first year where we get to see where the industry is heading after the pandemic phase. So I think this is really interesting to follow along, and I'm very excited to see the entries that are coming this year.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So I'm just going to kind of shift gears, and let's talk about some travel. We're all in this business because we love to travel. We love to explore. We love to do,
Absolutely.
Some of us love all things aviation and all of that. So, I do want to kind of share some insights and experiences with the audience and, some of your favorite places to visit. So I've got some questions here I'll run through quite quickly. First of all, what is your favorite aircraft type if you have one?
I do. It's the A350.
Really? Okay.
Yes, especially on the long haul segment. I'm somebody who really does feel the difference in jet lag and being rested upon arrival because of the CFRP fuselage that allows for different cabin air. And also the width of the fuselage is, I think, very nice and comfortable for passengers in all classes, even in economy. So I think this is a really great aircraft that Airbus has produced there. I also like the Dreamliner, of course, but coming from Hamburg, of course, I'm a little bit more inclined to.
Don't totally understand. I mean, for me, I love the 787-10 because that brings back memories for me.
I bet.
Worked really hard on it for many years. So, but I tend to like them all, particularly the front part, if I can get in there.
Oh, yes.
But no, thanks for sharing that. So can I ask, you just touched on something quite interesting that, you tend to suffer from jet lag, you mentioned. Do you have any quick tips? How do you kind of, prepare for a long haul trip, and how do you kind of try to counter the effects of jet lag?
I really try to create a scenario where I can minimize jet lag, even planning to travel. So, for example, if I'm traveling from the US West Coast to Europe, for example, I try to make a flight that goes nonstop to Europe, so no late night change in Chicago or Newark or wherever else, so that you can really get on board and get to rest as soon as possible. And I try to catch a flight that departs later in the day, So that is more aligned with the cardiac or the biological clock.
Oh, the circadian
The
rhythms.
circadian, thank you. And then also, as mentioned, I try to find flights actually that are either a Dreamliner or A350 operated to really have this difference in cabin air, because I really like this, or I really think that there is a difference to be felt. At least I always have the feeling that I leave these aircraft more rested and with a little less jet lag than others. So these are the kinds of tricks that I'm trying to follow.
Sounds like a lot of planning, and it seems to work for you. So I guess I was going to ask you, what do you like to do in flight? Would the answer be sleep then, or out of curiosity, is it sleep? Do you like to watch movies, listen to music? Do you read, watch the map?
Yeah, so I love to look at the map. Of course, I'm the aviation geek that I am, and still fascinated by the industry, especially if I'm able to look outside, and we're not flying over water. So I always love to compare. Okay, where are we right now? What you can see below.
Yeah.
Other than that, as mentioned, especially when flying overnight, I always try to sleep a little. Also on the way back, flying westwards on long haul. And then I really also like to just read a book or magazines in flight, because I do think it's one of the times where I actually have time to do that, even more than at home. So, and to me personally, it relaxes me a lot more than just binge watching movies all through the flight. I know there are people who are like this as well. And yes, if there is some time, if I'm rested, I also like to get some work done, because on an aircraft, to me it's also a good atmosphere to really deep dive into topics, get some writing done, or just some strategic thoughts aligned. And it really helps to look outside and see the sky and the clouds to just reshuffle your mind.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. I find at 30,000 feet, I get a lot of my inspiration for the different projects that I might be working on. Or if I'm working on a specific project or troubleshooting, I really, really focus. There's something about 30,000 feet that does that for me. So I guess I'm not alone. So I guess you're not one to watch movies and go through the whole library or any of that, more focused on being productive. So I have to ask the question, as you know, I love all things IFEC. Do you frequently connect to in-flight Wi-Fi?
I do sometimes, but it's really, so most of my flights are within or from Europe, and I've had the experience that the especially on short haul, I don't need the Wi-Fi, because I actually enjoy being offline for an hour or so. There we have again the focus point. And it's a different story when I'm flying long haul, especially to the US, which I've done quite frequently now in the past. But there I've had the impression that a lot of times the quality is not that sufficient to really get work done. So maybe it was just the provider. I think you're much more the expert in that than me. But I've had a couple times where I purchased a Wi-Fi pass on a long haul flight, and then ended up not being really able to use it because the quality, the bandwidth was not high enough to really get work done.
Yeah, reliability has been quite an issue. As you know, I've flown quite a bit this year and tried all the various systems, and I've been writing about it on LinkedIn and blogging and all of that. I think there's definitely room for improvement. There's a lot happening in that space, and I can sit here and talk for next probably 5 hours about it, but I won't. But I do agree with you. I still feel reliability is still a key issue. It is getting better. It can be quite hit and miss as well, depending where you're flying, who you're flying, what the provider is. But
absolutely,
there is a lot happening in that space, and I think a lot of work is going towards making it reliable, and new technologies coming out. So interesting to see what happens there. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So again, there is potential. If you, any of the listeners, have a good idea on how to improve this, or are working on something cool,
Mm-hmm.
please submit it to the Crystal Carbon Awards. So
Absolutely,
IFEC and Digital
yes, we
Services
want to know
category is
about
waiting
it
for you.
for sure. Specifically, in terms of speed and performance and reliability, there's so much I think that can be done there. And I know by saying this, I'm probably going to start getting threats for saying this when this goes live. But I mean, hey, let's be real. It's hit and miss. There's one provider, I must admit, I've flown them a few times. The reliability's been good. But I did message them and say, look, don't get too excited. I need to fly. Reliability is about having it continuously perform at an acceptable level on all the flights. So I think it's not there yet to be able to do that. But hopefully they'll get there soon. In terms of the onboard experience, you obviously travel a lot short haul, and I know Europe is a different experience flying, around Europe as it would be internationally. On your recent travels, has there been an experience on an airline, something that has caught your attention, whether it be, entertainment, food, service, cabin, seats, amenities, anything like that, something that you thought, wow, that was really good. Something, if you want to give an airline a pat on the back, just one feature that stood out. I think what's really great is that, we talk about, there's a lot of stuff you read about online about, what they didn't do and what they fell short of doing. But I think there is some great stuff happening out there. And have you experienced something that surprised you for a particular carrier that you thought was really great?
There was, yeah. And it's not cabin related, though, I have to say. But I really had a positive surprise flying back from Austin to Munich earlier this year on United through Chicago Air. So actually, your old employer, but that's really not the reason. This is completely compliant here. So, and I didn't really realize it when I did the booking, but I had like a 55-minute connection in O'Hare. Mm-hmm. And at check-in, I realized this, and it was like, this is never going to happen. I already pictured myself checking into some, mediocre airport hotel in O'Hare and trying to figure out where to have dinner in Chicago that night. But I actually was able to really smoothly and seamlessly transition into, even though I had to change terminals, we landed on time from Austin. I just moved terminals. I was able to just continue right into the boarding process. And there was on my flight to Munich. And I thought, like, wow, this is really, really good. Wow. I never expected this to happen so seamlessly. And with all the horror stories that we have also experienced in our industry this year.
Yes.
And luggage my luggage made it as well. So it was all good. I was really positively surprised that this kind of experience still happens, even at such major hubs like Chicago O'Hare. And I was really happy that this went so smooth and seamlessly. So I have to give a kudos here to United Airlines, because that was really travel-wise, this was the highlight of my year.
Wow, well done, United. Yeah, that's. I wasn't expecting you to answer, to give that kind of response, but yeah, glad to hear that went really well for you. And it's these experiences. There's so much, as you said, O'Hare. I used to live out that way. I used to travel through there. It's just like crazy. And when things go well, they go really, really well. And I think it's a great opportunity to give the guys at United a pat on the back for that in the operations and getting you to where you need to be, and your luggage arriving on time.
Absolutely. And it's also part of the passenger experience. It's not only the cabin, but as a passenger, I'm looking at the whole customer journey.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't help if I have a great cabin on the flight to O'Hare when the entire time I'm sitting like biting my nails, like, oh my God, I'm not going to make this, am I? So I think it's really good to be able to deliver this part of the product reliably as well. At least that day, they were able to.
Yeah. That day, no, that sounds great. And that's a really great point that you hit on. So yeah, I do know that, we tend to focus on cabin interiors, and I'm like all into IFEC and everything like that, but it's a fraction of the journey, so that's why, whether it's a big airline or a small airline, the communication between the various departments of an airline, silos do not work, do not facilitate such a great end-to-end customer experience. So, and I think it takes very strong leadership that have helped shape that, end-to-end passenger experience. And as you said, it doesn't happen all the time. I'm not going to name names. When I came back from Hamburg, my suitcase went on a vacation for about 10 days before I got to
Sorry to
see it
hear
again.
that.
But that was around, what was it, in June? We're at AIX.
Yes.
And I know there are a lot of issues affecting the industry. It's been well documented. I'm not going to, go into it here. But from what I've heard lately, though, things are starting to improve. In the United States, we just recently had the Thanksgiving holiday, and I think there was a lot of travel. Haven't heard anything bad coming out of that. Things have seemed to go pretty smoothly. So let's hope, things are picking up. Coming out of COVID, it's the worst thing I think that any of us in our lifetimes have experienced. And, I think we need to be realistic with our expectations.
Yes.
And I do want to, call out to all our friends in the industry. It's not easy. We might make it look fun and easy and glamorous, but it's a lot of hard work, and the effort that goes into getting a passenger from their origin to their destination. It's not until I think you work in the industry that you realize how complex it is, and that you appreciate the people
Absolutely.
that do it day in and day out with a smile on their face, And hey, we all have bad days from time to time, but we're there because we love it, and our goal is to get you there in the best possible way. So again, thank you for that feedback on United. I have to ask, what do you think of the IFE system?
Well, I was on the 787, and the IFE system was fantastic. So I think the people who designed it must have been real experts.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of effort to get those things. Yeah, huge partnership, a lot of people involved, but some really great feedback. So it'll be interesting to see what comes, the next generation of seatback IFE for them. So I guess, I hope they continue on a great path.
Absolutely.
And sincerely wish them well. My last question before we wrap it up. So you're coming to us from Hamburg. I've had the privilege of visiting Hamburg quite a number of times. Sometimes it's been short and I haven't had time to fully enjoy everything. Like, I know Hamburg has over 2,500 bridges. That's more bridges than Venice, London and Amsterdam combined. Architecture, I think is amazing. But for someone new, any of our listeners coming to Hamburg for the first time, what would you recommend they see and eat?
So I think thank you for mentioning the bridges facts, because that's something I bring up every time. It's just to demonstrate, how green and full of waterways Hamburg is, and I think it's a great city just to walk through and just experience on foot. And because there are so many places where you can take breaks, sit down, look at the water, look at parks, and so I think it's a really nice walkable city. It feels very very green and very laid back, even though it's one of the largest cities in the European Union. But of course, for that one place where you should definitely go, and a lot of people who visit Hamburg from international places are already going there, I think by now, is Miniature Wonderland, which is the largest model railway in the world. They even have an airport.
Wow.
And I really advise anyone who comes to Hamburg and has a couple hours to spend to check this place out, because Miniature Wonderland is really a place of its own, and it's a fantastic project also started out as a startup, two brothers who rented an old warehouse to build that model railway. And at the beginning, they didn't get funding from anybody. The banks laughed at them and said, like, oh, you want to build what? No, thank you. But they were proven wrong. So it's the most popular tourist destination in all of Germany, I think, right now. The highest ratings on TripAdvisor, and has been done so for many years. So Miniature Wonderland is really something you should not miss out on. And in terms of cuisine, I think we have a really diverse scenery here in Hamburg. It really depends on where you're staying. And I think in every neighborhood and district, there is some fantastic places to check out. And whether it's restaurants or bars, if you come in the summer, and next year's Aircraft Interiors Expo will again be in summer, one thing that I can advise you is take the ferry 62 to the Elbe Beach. It's the Neumühlen stop. And then if you walk down the beach, there is a bar called Strandperle. It means a beach pearl, where you can sit in the sand and have some snacks and drinks and look at the container port on the other side of the river, and just watch the action going on there, with the containers being loaded and offloaded, the big vessels, and especially at nights when the millions of lights are on the other side of the river. It's truly a spectacular scene and a wonderful place to wind down the day.
I do recommend a visit to Hamburg. My first time there, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so lovely. And I felt so comfortable. I felt safe. Everybody was friendly. And but I'm definitely interested in checking out this miniature wonderland. So
you should.
Yeah. I'm going to factor that into my itinerary next June when I come. But and also, the food, it is very diverse, the cuisine. I've eaten so much good food, always come back with a few extra pounds from Hamburg. But it's just an incredible place that, to be really honest with you, growing up in Australia, we were kind of isolated from everywhere. This is going back many years, and, to travel just to really major cities. But, one of the highlights of my life was discovering Hamburg. It's just beautiful. And what really surprised me is that in the summertime, it's daylight till really late. I remember that night we were all out for dinner after the awards, Monday, the judging day, and we're sitting there and I'm talking away. And, oh, the sun's still up, it's not late. And someone says 10:30 at night. And I'm not used to that from where I come from. It gets dark by about 7 o'clock. So, that probably facilitates more of everybody's more outdoors, would you say, in the summertime?
Absolutely. And I think this is, if the weather is nice, really May and June are the perfect months to spend in Hamburg, because you have so much from the day. Even if you finish work at 6 p.m., you still have almost 5 hours of daylight left where you can, do whatever you want to do. And it's a really beautiful atmosphere, also very early in the morning. So it's always tough getting up early. But between 5 and 6 a.m. In summer, really the city life is still more or less asleep, but the sun is already up, and it's the most peaceful atmosphere you can imagine. This is kind of the city still almost as under a spell. The sun is up, the birds are cheeping, but everything is still so quiet, and you have the whole city for yourself with all the buildings and architecture, and it's really, really beautiful. It's a magical time of the year. So, and I think this is really a special month also to have the AIX in Hamburg when we have so much daylight. It's one of the perks of being so far up north.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of hoping, I don't know, and, if you can share, I kind of hope it stays in the summer period in June, because previously it's been, early April. And so it was dark at night. It was just like, for when I was coming there, by 7 o'clock it's dark and that's it. But when I came last year, and I was like having trouble sleeping because it was daylight till so late, but you had more time to go explore. And like I said, when we were all out at dinner that night and chatting away and people were still outside, it was just really great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. The downside is now in winter when it gets really, really dark, and you have really little daylight, and that really gets you. So it's best to come in summer and enjoy the pros.
It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today, and sharing so much information. Like I said, Hamburg Aviation, it was mind blowing as to all the activity that's going there. And encourage anybody with a passion aviation, go onto the website. I'll include the links. The sustainable Aero
Please
labs.
do.
The work that's going on there, to get to net zero, I think is fantastic. People wanting to get into that space, ideas to contribute, definitely to go and look up that information. And also Crystal Cabin, so very exciting times. Yes. And just a reminder to everyone listening out there that submissions will be closing on the 25th of January at 11:59 Central European time. But all that information is available on the website, and I'll include those links as well.
Including the submission forms.
Yep. And also I will add the miniature wonderland to my holiday list for next June when I come and,
you
and
should.
go check that out for sure. No, it sounds.
You will not
awesome.
regret it.
Great. Okay. Thanks again, Lukas. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Corinne.
Thank you for tuning in to the On Your Flight Today podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you haven't already, subscribe to get notifications of new episodes and information about the show. Remember to go to www.onyourflighttoday.com for all the show notes, links, and transcripts of the episodes. If you have any feedback, questions, or suggestions for future episodes, be sure to contact me via the website.